And then in the régie, there's Mircea, who's a scenograph, architect extraordinaire, and Léo Chédin, who's here working with us on the sound, music generation and the movement generation. And we also have Beatrice Pozzi somewhere, yes, in the back, who's working with us on everything. So we wanted to take advantage of this moment to also share what does that mean, composing with AI, using artificial intelligence. From what you just saw, there's a lot of AI in there, but maybe it's not entirely visible, or maybe it is, I don't know. That's part of our question. But we thought we would start with just showing you, sorry, I catch my breath. Showing you the choreographic phrases that were generated by AI that are used in what we just showed. A little bit of a backstory is that all in the fall. Actually, what I can do is I can take this out now. I don't need it anymore. I can't hear myself. No, this you can hear me, right? With this? Yeah. I'm just going to take out this piece. I can hear myself. All in the fall with Leo, we were working in a motion capture studio. A motion capture is like, when you see it like in a video game, in cinema. You have captors on your body, and you go into a studio and records your movements, and then. So we recorded our data of our choreography and my movement to see if we could create a clone of me that could then propose movement, could compose movement. So we're working on that with Leo. It's still in process. We're still fine-tuning the data and all that kind of fun stuff that happens when you work with technology. But we thought we would show you one of the two phrases that we used. Is it possible to do it in the moitié? I don't know if you have it in real time, but it'll be easier to see in, or yes, or maybe not. Oh, okay. So this was one of the phrases, and it was, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Leo. And the other beautiful thing about this is, as you can see what Leo's manipulating, is the movement, the bodies can be seen in 3 dimensions, which is quite remarkable for how movement is transmitted and made and archived, all kinds of things. So it opens up a whole other avenue. It's still on full time. Maybe it needs to be closed and, yeah. But I don't know if especially if I know there's some dancers in the audience, but when you're confronted with this as your data, okay, now learn this, and you're now in front of something that looks like a body, functions like a body, but it has no sense of gravity, it has no bones, no muscles, no tendons, no fascia, no nothing. As Steve Paxton would say, there's no cells that all know where down is. So yeah, it was kind of a bit of a funny exercise to project your body into this other thing. It's a whole sort of vertiginous type of work that we've been working on here. Yeah, I don't know. Now it's slowed down, but I don't know if I can even do some of it. Is this what I think it is? Oh, yeah. It's something that I was trying to do that maybe you can recognize better with my body. But there's glitches, and but you could, up. I want to be in time with her. Anyway, but you get the idea that I can recognize it from my body. But sorry, I stopped talking.
No, I mean, yeah, the goal is, so So we ended up using generation with pre-trained models because at this point the fine-tuning on our data is still in process. So we, as Liz said, we learned a lot already just using generated movement and 3D model to learn movement, because as Liz just said, like it's a very different way to learn movement. But hopefully we'll also, in the coming month, produce movement that's slightly less glitchy and also more tunable. In other words, like we can give it 45 minutes that's like a certain type of improv, and it's going to generate movement that somewhat is in this spirit. So that's one thing. So that was part of the material that we shared. It was the text also that was blending in a sort of iteration on memories from Liz that were then generated using an LM, a large language model, with some iteration on the prompting, and then we rewrote what it had produced, and then we reiterated and regenerated on that. So it's kind of a sort of palimpsest of real and unreal, or true or false content, which becomes also sort of work of make-believe. I mean, this is also for us a very different avenue of work. Like but maybe I'll say a word about that later. And then there was music generation. So about Leo, what would you say? Like maybe a bit more than half the music is AI generated, but it's blended into piano music, mostly from the 19th century, with this sort of idea of, because there's something that we're researching with this piece, which is also memory, and in particular childhood memory, which in the case of Liz was a lot of ballet, and it was a lot of dance class, so this is kind of the music that you would have in a dance class. And yeah, we're blending it with something generated, and it seems that sometimes you can perceive that something is quite weak, sometimes it's surprisingly good. I mean, I'm curious what you experienced, but sometimes I forget when it transitioned from Schubert to AI, or from Chopin to AI, or there are moments where it's like, oh yeah, like it's not the score anymore, but it's believable. And also we started, but it's also tried to imagine how we could work also with images in that sense, like borrowing real images from Liz's childhood that we'll use, that's still in development. But I think the thing I wanted to say is that for us it's also a very, very different type of work than what we've been doing so far. Like usually we really work, there's no fourth wall, there's no theater, there's no like we're in the same room, and there's no narration, there's no make-believe, there's no fiction. Like we always work with processes that are what they are, and it's durational, and there's no theater, so to speak. And here it feels like if we want to create a tension between what is real or what is not real, we need to somewhat like play permanently with the theater and the make-believe situation and the sort of appeal to the fiction. So yeah, we're also, maybe that's a good way to open to questions or perceptions, because it's also very interesting for us to understand what's your perception, and if the question of what is authentic or not is active while you experience this material, or what is your experience or questions or.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. It was very pleasant to watch you dancing. And I'm curious, I listened to you, and for me it looked like set material, for example, maybe I didn't understand something. So everything was set from what you did, or what is the relation actually with the artificial intelligence? It's not so clear for me. Like, I'm seeing now this image, but was it part of the creation of the set material that we watched now, or the relation?
That's a great question. Something we didn't state also is that we, same with the text being, the origin of the text material, is coming from my memories that get unreal, that get transformed to become real or unreal, and same with the music, this idea of the piano music from a ballet class. And the material, the movement material, is organized in a not entirely set way. There's somewhat of a score, but the movement material is sourced from our work, from previous pieces. So we have 7 or 6 movement modalities. We have choreography, movement, excuse me, I can't speak. We have movement from a piece called We Do Our Best from 2012. We have movement from a piece called Relative Collider, then a piece called For Claude Shannon, and then we have this generated movement, so we have these 2 phrases.
But and they are generated, by the...
No, the movement material, there's essentially 6 ways I can move in my body. I either have the choreography from one of our 5 pieces, or I have this generator phrase. So I'm going in, I'm weaving in and out of real, whatever that means, real movement that exists in our work, our previous pieces, and fake, unreal movement that's made by this generator. Is that?
So you learned from the generator?
Yes.
Yeah, I learned that phrase, or the 2 phrases.
From them that they created?
Them, they, yes. There's no they, but yeah, the artificial. Yeah, the artificial intelligence.
Okay.
So that's a good question. Thank you. That's good to clarify that. Yeah, there's these weaving of those in and out.
But it's also interesting because the set material, like I think there's not a single piece that we've made that's not somewhat generative, like with an open score and with a lot of variability from one performance to another. And here, because there's so much generation already with the music and the material and the mixing, somehow it feels at this point, I mean, it could still change, but that we need to have some sort of set material, because already the terrain is very mobile. For instance, like, I don't know if Leo, you can play, or if you have, maybe in this session, or maybe you need to open, for Chopin, the Nocturne, like we have maybe 30 generations with different temperature, with different like truncation for the, so.
But
you know,
what does it mean, generation?
Okay, so you have
I don't know, maybe it's clear for everybody.
No,
That's a good question.
yeah, that's a good
Thank
question.
you. This is
When
very
you,
helpful.
Yeah, I don't know the word, but in this context.
Yes.
When you use generative AI, maybe you'll give a prompt or some data to your AI system, and it's going to produce an answer. So you could give it like 10 seconds of a Nocturne of Chopin and ask it to continue. And those are stochastic systems, so if you do it a second time, it's going to produce something else. It's not deterministic, it's like having some randomness to it. So if you do it a second time, it's going to produce something different. And the third time, again, something different. So with the same like parameters of the model. And then you can also play with different parameters, which will give you also even more diverse answers.
Last thing. So in here, you were surprised or given parts that you didn't know before?
No. This is set material, but from very diverse pool of text and music material. And
yes. Another example of the generation, at the very beginning, just when I say hello to everybody, I don't speak Romanian, obviously I could, but I don't speak Romanian, so that's why we generated, off of the data of me speaking English, we generated a voice that we then gave, we even used AI to translate from English to Romanian, and then had this Romanian voice speak that text, because I can't speak it, so I'm even listening to my voice say things that I don't know what I'm saying. I mean, I know them because I said it in English just before, but otherwise... That's a generation.
Santoro și împreună cu colaboratorii mei, pe care îi veți cunoaște mai târziu, am fost aici, la CNDB.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for your questions. Yes?
Okay. I have a question. If you will finish this performance, I wanted to ask if you want to announce to the audience that there is some AI, because if you didn't tell us, I wouldn't guess that there is AI in the dance and in the music, and I think it's very nice and interesting. If I didn't know anything and I would go home and I wouldn't know, I think it's nice, but at the same time I think it's something else if you announce it and you say this happened and so on. And if you decide to announce that there is AI in the work, in the finished product, how do you think you wanted to say this, or what's the, like, there is a different scene where you say this is fake, this is not made by us, or?
No, it's a super great question. I mean, in the introduction that Liz said, she actually touched that. She said that there was AI-generated material.
Yeah, but I just waited. I said, okay, so the next one will be
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
No, it's super interesting. That's actually what we're trying to figure out, and that's why it's so great to have your ears and eyes and nervous systems and intelligence and perception, because in a way, so one direction is to be like, oh, this is real, this is unreal, and somewhat like babysit you, but that's not interesting, and you don't need that, and so that's not the avenue that we're interested in doing. The other avenue, paradoxically, is if we succeed, you don't see the difference, and then the spectacularity of it is a bit lost, as you said, like when we started to be able to generate piano music that was really convincing, we're like amazing and also creepy and also shit, because now, so it's like either you degrade the AI and you make it like not so great and everybody's like, oh, see, AI is not so good, or you actually use it in a way that's blending, and then it's more vertiginous and more interesting, but also how you keep the audience engaged with the experience. And I guess we're trying to do that in different ways, like with the voice, like, I don't know if you noticed, but Liz is having some glitches, so the text that she's receiving is glitched, so she speaks, but she has some sort of like stutter or some deformation that maybe creates like a sort of maybe tension whether like there's a problem or not, or it's like the motive of the glitch is something, maybe in the movement. We've been trying to work on that, and I guess also the theatricality, like at some point, like, I mean, it was also a memory of childhood, like transforming the piano into sort of Nintendo NES like system and back, and to kind of derealize the piano music, and we actually put the NES on verbatim Chopin, and it was actually the real piano on the generated music, so it feels like, you suddenly feel like you're in a video game, but really you're listening to Chopin, and when it feels like it's a grand piano, it's actually totally synthetic music. So we try to play with that, but it's it's still a question, how much of that do we manage to make you feel, and how much, what's the goal? Like ultimately, if you know that it's mixed, then you, I don't know, like I don't have the answer, but that's a great question. It's how much if we explain too much and it's like, oh, this is how on this part, like it's maybe satisfying for the cognitive brain, but maybe that's not very interesting. But like, if we also stop having you engage with the nature of what you see, then maybe you check out and it becomes like less compelling too. So I'm curious about that.
I also, these questions, this question you're asking, the question that's around us all more and more every day, is what we are trying to understand and share. So when I don't know, it's not playing anymore, but it's not that phrase, that movement generation, that movement phrase that I see, I'm like, oh my God, I love that, I want to do that movement, that's really great. Like, it's what's going on right now. Like, I want to understand that. I want to understand, like, how do I interact with this thing? Like, Chopin is those are chefs-d'œuvre. Those are like works that are just incredible. Why would you need to, mess with them? They're already, but that's what's happened. So it's like these questions of that tension and that feeling of like, ooh, like, but working from that space. So anyway, thank you for your question. Yes.
Can I say one last thing before? Hold on. It's also, I think, underneath, because that's very much, that's the center of the question. It's also the question that we want to keep alive as much as what am I seeing? Like, so that's, and what is the reality that I'm experiencing? And it feels like beyond AI, which is like invading more and more of our world for better or worse. It's happening. So as Liz just said, but I think underneath it's also a deeper question about reality. Like it's like already a construct. Like you don't need, even before there's AI, reality is like synthetic, like perception and all that. So it's also, I don't know, like you can also be like going to it as a sort of like Buddhist, like awakening and deconstructing reality. AI is also a way to kind of like experience this more directly, but it's not something that's really the topic. The topic is, can we create a space performatively that has the potential to deconstruct or be a proposal to deconstruct your perception of reality. So I guess or it's an individual journey, but sorry.
No,
thank you.
Sorry. Just I wanted to congratulate you because you were performing alone on stage with no set on a chroma green screen. And I've always thought that performing alone or body movement is the equivalent of poetry in a way, in terms of body. I was just wondering, because you said or the AI said in the beginning that this is work in progress.
Yes.
I was just wondering what the next step is, because I see the green screen on the floor and I saw it at the back, and I was wondering if you're filming this or what's going on. What's the next? Right?
I think that the green screen is more of a sort of deceptive thing that recalls some sort of subconscious sign of all this effects, but they're not there.
Okay.
And I don't think we're gonna, we've tried a number of things, and I really, to answer a question, and that's connected to that question, we really don't know where the piece is going. It's in that sense, it's truly a work in progress. We need to understand how that question grows and becomes stronger for the audience. The question of what is real and not real in this. But so we might use sophisticated video tricks, but for now it was more of a sort of kind of traditional floor, except that it brings all that sort of chroma key
No, but
special
actually
effects.
it wasn't in the sense that, I'm sorry, but I saw a performer that was spectacular on stage, and I saw a green screen on the floor and at the back, and I'm asking why.
Okay.
Why not black?
Yeah.
I mean, just the performer was there, and
So first of all, I mean, I guess there's different stuff. There's indeed a white and a green screen, and when you enter, like, we'd want it. It was not really easy to do light-wise here, but would want the surface to look like it's homogeneously green, so that you don't see that it's like two different colors, and that it's going to eventually be perceived later. So just play with your perception of what you think you see and what really you see or what is there. And again, for me, the green floor is just a floor that has a color that brings the idea of artificiality. But it's very real, it's very material here. So it's this tension that I'm interested in with the chroma key, is that here there's no special effect. It's just bringing the load of your expectation of a special
I understand.
effect.
So this performance was not recorded on this chroma. No, okay.
No.
So it's just, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I understand.
No, it doesn't have a
It's
function.
meta, okay, I
It's,
understand.
yeah, it's meta. if you
Also,
want.
yeah, maybe also
My bad.
asking, but I think it kind of worked maybe, because if you're asking that question, we kind of succeeded. You know, because then you're thinking about it,
it's
you're like,
meta. I
oh,
got
wait a
it,
minute.
I got it, my bad.
But maybe not so meta. Maybe we're lying to you. Maybe we did film on it.
I wonder, like, if you set any boundaries with artificial intelligence.
You said that?
If you set boundaries, yeah, because you said, like, yeah, it could be, we don't know where it's going, we don't know what is happening, everything is generated. So is there like, okay, we're gonna make it like, I don't know, 45 minutes. You have some boundaries with the AI?
I mean, not everything is generated in the sense that it's really mixed. So compositionally, we decide how much like text and scenes we want to bring, and I think it looks like it's probably going to be maybe 45 minutes, but I think it's difficult to answer that question, but I think the limit is the time we have to work and fatigue. I felt like there was something also interesting tonight, which is like with people here, like there's something about the intensity of movement that's different. So also the breath and the duration, like the perception of duration changes. But yeah, I mean, the question of boundary, I think here is we're not working with autonomous AI systems here, so
Yeah,
there's
we're asking it to do
not a lot
something
of
that's
risk that they're
coming
gonna
from
totally
data
take
that's-
us somewhere totally
we have.
unwanted, but yeah, I don't know. Did that answer?
Yeah.
I'm curious about, you said about the using the motion capture, and I wonder how much, with what you trained, you had this randomness from an app that you used, or all that choreographies that you said that you had before that you used in the scoring here, it was the material that you used to feed the AI.
Yeah,
So,
we fed it with our repertory.
but not with that generation, because I mean, maybe
No.
you want to
Yeah, maybe
take
Leo
a word
can-
of it, but
you
we're
wanna
not there yet
come?
we use the pre-trained model.
Oh, okay, so you use a pre-trained model that knows kind of the anatomy of movement.
Yes.
So you
and
don't you're not recycling your movements through
We-
the AI and reorganizing it.
We have the
different.
data, and we're in the process of retraining the model, but it proves to be a bit tricky because when you I mean, Leo would be able to tell much more about it, but when you use a mocap system, in our case it was OptiTrack, and the norm, the format of the skeleton, like the 3D data, the motion capture, there's like tons of different norms, and when you use like a different, you need to do some optimization to transform the data into another
the
format.
same
and
dummy.
What?
If the dummy is different, every
Yeah, there's a lot of technical details there. So to actually fine-tune the model that we're using currently, which is Edge, we need to do more work. It's not just basically, it doesn't work yet. But so we use the model that's not trained on our data to generate movement and to start to learn from generated movement. And but we're still investigating and very much wanting to generate movement that's closer to our own repertoire and our own work.
Okay, thank you.
Just a thought that I have, because about this is real and unreal, putting in this context like conventional space, theater, and usually we believe everything that we see in front of, on the stage. And I don't know a lot about AI. I mean, as an artist, I didn't work. I'm curious about and what will come up in art with AI. So it's very interesting that you are working on this. But this is the thought that I believe everything. So
Yeah.
this is the tricky thing on a stage. So.
Yeah, it makes me think also of something that I feel like naturally we want to digest and kind of remove as much the presence of technology as we can from the stage, so that it doesn't create like a screen, so to speak. So it's true that like the music, I mean, it's pretty sophisticated and very recent models that we're using, and for the music and all that, but you don't see we're not staging at this point, at least for this piece, like something that would be pedagogical or somewhat like having a bit of didactic content, so you could see how it's made. The presence of the AI is in a way it's absorbed in the theater space, and as you say, whatever is there, I mean, when there's a fake like problem, everyone is gonna still, like, you can do, yes, you can. Even when there's absolutely no fiction, we're always super surprised in our work. And there's really no fiction, like no fiction whatsoever. And people always tell you like the stories that they, which is beautiful, but it's also
Generates again.
you create a meaning even.
Yeah.
Maybe
One more. Yeah.
I would like to ask also the text that you also did feed text to it, no?
Yeah.
And did it change also? I'm almost surprised for you if you were surprised by some new, let's say, information or reorganization of information that it gave you. Did it change somehow the perception you have about yourself and your memories? Did it change you in something or surprise you in like, oh, do you have is it me or it's not me? Talking about real or not real one.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They're based off of true stories, but they take turns and they do things that didn't really happen. But of course, memories are. We don't know if they're, we don't know where they're real and they're not. Even when I tell the story, I'm like, is this even real? But what's creepy is that a lot of times it puts its finger, it doesn't have a finger, but it puts its finger in a place where you're like, wait, as you said, like, wait a minute, that's going a bit deep in there, yeah. So for sure, that's a great question. It's entirely what's happening.
Yeah, like kind of a reconfiguration of the self also.
Yeah. It's also a bit therapeutic, I have to say.
Yeah.
It's like something where you're like, we can handle that, manage that in my personal story. It's yeah. Thank you. Can I just ask one question before we go? I was curious about the music. Do people, when you hear the music, you're like, like why is this music that I am familiar with, like why is it getting weird? Or you're like, it all seems totally, music is the music and that's the music. I don't know.
That's the music.
It's the music. You're not like, why is Chopin doing something really weird?
It wasn't.
Okay.
I wasn't bothered.
But you didn't.
necessarily.
You didn't notice it. It was not
There
noticeable.
was AI in it.
It was all, yeah.
It was all AI.
Yeah. No, what happens is it's each music would start. Leo can also speak to this too, but we would give it Chopin, and then it goes on its own. Yeah, it goes like.
I think it speaks more to the fact that you performed and you took the stage, and
Okay.
our attention was more
Yeah.
on you
Okay.
rather than on.
Interesting. Okay. No, it's because when we first were playing with the music, makes my stomach a little. When I first hear it, my guts feel a bit weird. But so I didn't know if anyone had that experience.
If I can say about music, it's also that sometimes we have electronic music that sometimes also messes, but also
Yeah.
so it can be also created by somebody. It's
Yeah.
not so
You're used to it.
trained.
Yeah.
I guess.
Thank you.
I didn't notice any
Okay.
change in music, obvious change explicitly.
Can you, Leo,
It sounded like cartoonish at a certain point.
the what there?
It sounded like cartoonish, like you explained like the Nintendo, and you're like,
But it was the change of the
it had a
sound.
layer of
Nintendo,
like
but we
comedy.
just played regular, straight up.
Can you, Leo,
The
could
Beethoven
you
or
play
the-
different
Something that doesn't
continuation
have
of
a-
Chopin, a different generation?
Yeah, but now we know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's Chopin.
That's real. You can raise your hand when it goes off.
That's still Chopin.
Raise your hand when you think it's.
That's not Chopin. To me, not Chopin.
Yes. Right.
Another generation. So that's another continuation. That's Chopin. That's Chopin.
Not real.
But when it is Chopin, no. There is afterwards some words.
That's another
When it is Chopin, there is a human who plays it, or it's still generated.
No,
It's generated.
No, but it's MIDI. It's MIDI. That was, I think, Leo, this one was actually maybe derived from an actual performance, because it has human accents, and then the MIDI is played through a piano synthesizer. That's a good piano synthesizer, but it was made out of a performance by a human. Then it's re-synthesized in a synthetic piano. That's not AI, that's just sound engineering. And then, because it's easier if you want to use AI to generate music, it's easier to work at the symbolic level, so with a score or MIDI. It's easier, it's less, the dimensionality is much lower than if you use actual sound. Because if you use sound like does that make sense? It's much, you could train an AI model on sound, actual recordings, and it would produce continuation, but it would be requiring much more data, and it would be much more expensive than if you actually use the symbolic level.
Thank you.
So, what AI did you actually use?
This is actually
for music, for instance.
Yeah, and for text also.
So,
what AI? I mean, like
so for
what
the
software?
yeah. So for the music, it's actually Leo kind of customized something that's currently under development that's based on transformers. Okay, sorry. And it's a repo that's called Aria that you can find on GitHub, but it's that actually Grigory pointed out to us because he saw it on Twitter recently, and he was like, "Oh, those guys are doing something interesting." And so it's based on a big corpus of piano music. I think there's like 10,000 MIDI scores that it's trained on. So for the movement, it's a model that was developed by Stanford called Edge in 2023. Leo, am I correct?
Edge.
Huh?
Yeah, Edge.
Edge.
Some technical questions afterwards. Anyone is very interested in this.
Yeah, but that's the point of the.
I think if we delve into like technical. Sorry.
The music was suggested also by AI?
Yes.
Based on the text?
The text, the music, the movement, everything.
I mean, yeah, it's both. So the text mixes
my costume, I'm just kidding.
writing from this and generation, and the music mixes Debussy, Chopin, Bruckner, others, Schubert. And yeah, and for the text, so the idea, and we're probably going to do it at some point, but we didn't have time yet. There's two avenues if you want to generate text and control certain things. So either you fine-tune a large language model, and that's a bit more involved, and we didn't have time to do that just yet, or you do more prompt engineering, and you really, and with recent models, I mean, we used different versions, but like the last version was published using Claude 3.7 Sonnet, so the latest Anthropic large language model. And yeah, I mean, I will, when I have some time, do some fine tuning and see if we can. But it was already yeah, like really surprisingly good in its way with prompt engineering. So you do fine tuning when you want to produce long form in a more consistent way, but it might not be necessary for this piece. Quoi? Ah bon? Faut qu'on s'arrête, apparemment. We are told that we need to stop. Okay. But yeah, we'll all stick around, so if you want to talk to us.